and other diplomats go into these high-threat situations with their eyes wide open. But I just want to hear from you why, with all of this information in front of you, particularly on the date of August 17th, did it not occur to you to pick up the phone and call your friend, Ambassador Stevens, and ask him what he needed?
We knew what he was asking for. Those requests went to the security professionals, and I would only add, with respect to the travel warning, we issued travel warnings for many, many places in the world. They are really aimed at informing American travelers, business travelers, tourists, about conditions that they might face if they go to countries. They are not a criterion for determining whether we keep or end a diplomatic presence. And I just want to go back to the point you were making and read from the Accountability Review Board. For many years, the State Department has been engaged in a struggle to obtain the resources necessary to carry out its work with varying degrees of success. This has brought about a deep sense of the importance of husbanding resources to meet the highest priorities, laudable in the extreme, but it has also had the effect of conditioning a few State Department managers to favor restricting the use of resources as a general orientation. It is imperative for the State Department to be mission-driven rather than resource-constrained, and one overall conclusion in this report is that Congress must do its part to meet this challenge and provide necessary resources to the State Department to address security risks and meet mission imperatives.
My time is out, and I'm afraid my chairman is going to tell me to be quiet, but the last, do you know
I'm not going to tell you to be quiet. I'm just going to ask you if you might hold it. I'm going to try to be a little quicker on the gavel than I've been, just in the interest of time. So,
okay, I'll circle back then. Thank you. I yield back.
I would recognize the gentleman from Maryland.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Let me say that the Madam Secretary and committee, the August 17, 2012 information memo just referenced is not something new.
That's right.
It's not something that this committee uncovered.
That's right.
In fact, Congress has had the information memo for years. It was attached as an exhibit to the Benghazi ARB report that Secretary Clinton sent to Congress before her testimony to Congress in January of 2013. The ARB had it and considered it important enough to append it to its report, and Congress already questioned the Secretary about her awareness of security conditions in Libya in the run-up to the attacks.
Will the gentleman yield?
We just gave you an extra 3 minutes. I gotta use my time. I'm sorry. If I have extra time, I'll give it to you. Within months of the attacks, the Republican investigations of Benghazi had begun, and the chief investigator, Madam Secretary, who was chairman of the House Oversight Committee, Darrell Issa, made it clear that his efforts were directed at you. As he spoke at a political event in New Hampshire, Chairman Issa had said he came to that political event in New Hampshire to, quote, shape the debate for 2016, end of quote. How right he was. At that event, Chairman Issa explained, can we roll the tape, please?
We need to have an answer of when the Secretary of Defense had assets that he could have begun spinning up, why there was not one order given to turn on one Department of Defense asset. I have my suspicions, which is Secretary Clinton told Leon to stand down. And we all heard about the stand-down order for 2 military personnel. That order is undeniable. They were told not to get off the airplane and
the idea that you would intentionally take steps to prevent assistance to Americans under attack in Benghazi is simply beyond the pale. The claim has also been disproven multiple times over. First, it was disproved by the ARB, which issued its report at the end of 2012. Admiral Mullen, former chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff and had led the ARB's military review, and concluded that the military had, and I quote, done everything possible that we could, end of quote. Then the Republican-led House Armed Services Committee issued its report in February 2014, Madam Secretary, which detailed all of the steps taken by the military to mobilize upon hearing of the attacks, including immediately redirecting a surveillance drone to Benghazi, ordering 2 Marine fast platoons to Rota, Spain to deploy, one bound for Benghazi, the other for Tripoli, ordering the commanders in extremis force training in Croatia to move to a U.S. Naval Air Station in Sigonella, Italy, and dispatching a special operations unit to the region from the United States. About his review, the chairman, Howard Buck McKeon, a Republican, stated, "I think I've been pretty well satisfied that given where the troops were, how quickly the thing all happened, and how quickly it dissipated, we probably couldn't have done more than we did," end of quote. Chairman Iss's Oversight Committee, which I am the ranking member of, even spent years actively pursuing evidence for this claim and found nothing. And as it says in the Democratic report we put out on Monday, none of the 54 individuals interviewed by our select committee has identified any evidence to support this Republican claim against you. In fact, not one of the 9 congressional and independent investigations has identified any evidence to support this assertion in the last 3 years. My question, I sincerely hope this puts this offensive claim to rest once and for all. I'm asking you, Madam Secretary, did you order Defense Secretary Leon Panetta to stand down on the night of the attacks?
Of course not, Congressman, and I appreciate your going through the highlights of the very comprehensive report that the House Armed Services Committee did on this. I think it's fair to say everybody, certainly Defense Secretary Panetta, Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman Dempsey, everybody in the military scrambled to see what they could do. And I was very grateful for that. And as you rightly point out, logistics and distance made it unlikely that they could be anywhere near Benghazi within any kind of reasonable time.
Now, Madam Secretary, the Benghazi attacks occurred during a period of significant upheaval and intense volatility in the Middle East and North Africa. There was tremendous unrest throughout the region. I would like to play a clip that shows what was happening at dozens of posts throughout the world, and then I would like to get your reaction if you can. Please play the tape.
Protests have spread over an amateur video made in the United States which mocks Islam. In the Afghan capital, Kabul, 1,000 Afghans held a violent protest, burning cars and tires and shooting at police. In the Indonesian capital, Jakarta, hundreds of protesters from hardline Islamic groups threw petrol bombs and rocks outside the American embassy. And in Pakistan, at least one protester was killed. In Beirut, Hassan Nasrallah, head of the Shia Muslim movement Hezbollah, called for a week of demonstrations against the video. Tens of thousands have turned out in a tightly organized, peaceful protest. Well, let's go live on the Hub now to the streets of Beirut.
Secretary Clinton, what was your sense of how things were unfolding?
Congressman, they were very dangerous and very volatile. Starting on Monday with the attack on our embassy in Cairo, going all the way through that week into the next week, there were numerous protests.